Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Iconic Dollcast. My name is Sage, your host. Welcome back to another episode all about dolls. I cannot believe it's August. Summer is flying by. I knew when I started recording this set of episodes that I was going to have a super busy summer. So a lot of these episodes were recorded months and months in advance. And honestly, thank God I did that because I just would not have had time to have been interviewing people all summer. So I'm glad I did that. But this episode today, I'm talking with Christopher, and Christopher lives here in Colorado. He works at the doll shop in Denver called Turn of the Century Antiques. Look it up if you don't know what that is. And we're going to be talking a lot about Barbie. And I just brought that up about, me recording content so far in advance because this episode, actually, I just recorded last week. Chris actually works with Rachel Hoffman, and if you are a doll collector, I'm sure you are at least somewhat aware of her. She's big in the doll community, but Rachel was going to be on the show, and just some things got in the way. She hasn't been feeling very good. I hear she's doing better now, which great. I wish her all the fast healing, and hopefully we'll get her on the show for the next set of episodes in the fall. But Christopher was kind enough to offer to come on so I could have an episode for you guys, and I'm super excited about it. But before we get into it, guys, I feel like I just was so overconfident that there was gonna be no more Barbie movie dolls just because they've done so many, and what a surprise. There are new Barbie movie dolls coming out, and these dolls have new sculpts. I think from what I was looking at, the Margot Robbie doll, she has the same face mold, but her mouth is closed. She's really pretty, and Ryan Gosling is actually getting his own face mold as well. I think they both look great. I think the Ryan Gosling one looks just like him, very, very close anyway. So, I'm not upset with these, but I'm not going to get them. They're made to order, so we've talked about that on the show. Who knows when they'll arrive? And honestly, I just have too many. I really can't, but they look great, so I'm excited for those. I'm excited for people who plan on getting them. They are cute, but I really thought they were going to be done, and now I think I read something that there are a few more are coming, so they are going to ride that train till the end of time, which, whatever, it's fine. I'm not going to get into those. What else? I just got the holiday Barbie. I got the Teresa face mold. I found her at Target randomly. Was like, I'll just pick this up now. The holiday Barbies this year are pretty cute. I have a couple issues with them. I love all of the faces that they use. I think they're all really pretty dolls. I think the costume is pretty cute. The one thing, I just cannot stand those earrings. If you haven't seen them yet, look up Holiday Barbie 2024, and it's just like, and Chris and I talk about this in the episode, so spoiler, but I do feel like one of the things one of the places where Mattel really struggles is they have all these great Barbies, and sometimes I just feel like they are ruined with accessories. The 65th anniversary dolls, I love to talk about those. Some of them are really great, but they've got these awful accessories, whether it's a necklace or whatever, and I found that taking those accessories off made the doll look a lot better. And so for this holiday, I don't usually open the holiday Barbies, but if I were to, I would definitely be taking those earrings out. I think they're so ugly, but other than that, she's really cute. I'm loving the new Barbies. The fashionistas, there's a new blind Barbie, which I think is great. There's also a new Down syndrome doll, and she is so cute. We've said it a lot this season. This has definitely been my iconic dollcast season where I have fully accepted and embraced the new Barbie world that we live in. And the Mattel is continuing with their diversity, and I really love to see that. I think these dolls are great. I also got one of those, what is it called? The Barbie Besties? I don't know. I got these because they're very interesting. I think I talked about it maybe in the last episode or maybe the one before that. It definitely looks like Mattel's trying. It's definitely a very My Scene versus Bratz situation where these dolls kind of look like Rainbow High dolls with a little bit of LOL doll influence, and it is what it is. It's Mattel being a business, and, they're always trying to stay number one. They're okay, these dolls. I got two of them. I got, Barbie and Brooklyn. They're all right. I thought they looked pretty cute in the box. Once I opened them, again, the abundance of accessories, the dolls look a lot better when you scale them back a little bit. Would I, now that I've opened them and kind of looked at them up close, maybe it wasn't my. It might be one of the doll lines that I'm not so positive about in my end of the year wrap up, but they're all right. They're pretty cute. Finally found the rest of those 65th anniversary Barbies that have been, I've been talking about them all season. They finally have the new ones out on the shelves. I can't believe how long that took, but whatever. It is what it is. And let's see. American Girl is going to release another set of Disney princess dolls. This time, of course, we are getting Anna and Elsa. I'm honestly surprised that was not the first the first Disney princess collaboration they did, because we all know just like toy stores and toys and dolls and whatever, it's all just like full of Frozen merchandise and it's never ending. I think I said it before. It's like I'm over it. I love Frozen. I love the characters. I love the dolls. But I mean, seriously, it feels like there's a new one every single month or a new set, whatever. These American Girls, as you know, they're doing great with their quality. They are $300. The price point is very high. I didn't look up. I don't think they're made to order, but they're probably sold out by now. But they're cool. I was expecting that, and everyone loves Anna and Elsa, so I love to see it. But I cannot afford another $300 American Girl doll when I still haven't gotten my Barbie American Girl doll. We're getting closer though. I think that said it was going to ship in November of this year, so we've still got a little bit of ways to go, but very, very excited for that one. And I'm sure there's many, many more that I haven't brought up yet. We don't have all the time in the world today. I want to get into the interview, but really quickly, I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for spending your summer with me, listening to the podcast. This is the last episode coming out for August, so there's going to be just a kind of a little mini break, but stay tuned because I've got some really special stuff coming for you in September. Including, I'm going to re-release an episode, and I've got a brand new episode coming, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. And yeah, I mean, thank you guys again. It's, I love summer. I love the podcast. It's been so much fun rolling it out and getting all your feedback and hearing what you guys think. Thank you to all my guests for being on the show this summer. I really appreciate it. And the Iconic Dollcast will be back in September, and I have plenty of plans to keep going through the fall and winter and next spring and hopefully into next summer. So very excited. Lots of cool things to come. As always, please follow me on Instagram, Britney Spears Custom Dolls or Iconic Dollcast. Follow me on TikTok at Britney Spears Dolls. If you want to be on the show, send me a message. I would love to have you on the show. You can email me at iconicdollcast@gmail.com or hit me up on Instagram. I would love to talk dolls with you. And so thank you so much. And here's my interview with Christopher, all about Barbie collecting, working at a doll shop, and just having just the best time on our Barbie adventure. All right, guys, today I have Christopher on the show, and Christopher is a big Barbie fan and collector and also works at a doll shop here in Denver called Turn of the Century Antiques. Christopher, I'm so excited to have you on the show today. Before we get into all things dolls and all things Barbie, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you found yourself in this wonderful world of Barbie that we live in.
Oh, of course. Thank you for having me. This is so exciting. I have been a lifelong enthusiast of Barbie. I've been working at the shop now for 2.5, 3 years. It'll be 3 years fairly soon. And it's truly, my friends sort of make fun of me that this job just fell out of the sky into my lap. I was sort of between jobs for a little while. And I had known of Rachel and known of the channel, and I just sort of unexpectedly started a job here. And it felt like such a wonderful fit that here we are, almost 3 years later, and it's truly a wild ride. It's a total dream, and there's never a dull moment.
Oh gosh, I can imagine. And yeah, what an amazing job. Especially, I mean, obviously we're doll collectors here, so I can't. I mean, what a great position to find yourself in. And so have you collected Barbies all your life? When did you start collecting? Do you remember the first Barbie you ever saw? Tell me about that.
As as so many effeminate young boys are forbidden their love of Barbie, I'd always had like a natural sort of gravity or inclination toward her or toward classic displays of femininity. and was never really permitted the joy of Barbie as a kid. Every chance I got, I would maybe harass a friend or a neighbor or a cousin and find, any free time to go play with Barbie. I did actually have a few dolls of my own, every, sort of touch and go as a kid. But I don't think I can say that I've been a collector my whole life, because I've been pining maybe my whole life, but actually possessing is different. And I think I don't know, I guess you could say that I started like properly, intentionally collecting maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago. And it's just all downhill from there. It's just
Of course.
it's a runaway train. Please, somebody stop me.
Please, somebody don't, though, also. You know what I mean? What's the first Barbie you ever purchased for yourself that you were like, I'm going to get a Barbie, I'm getting her right now, and I cannot wait?
Actually, so the technical truth to that is that as a kid, I don't know, I was probably 10 or 11. I was probably just on the cusp of like too old for dolls. And my mother took me to, you know about Big Lots, the store Big Lots?
Hell yeah.
Big Lots, turns it out. I love Big Lots. And my mom took me to a Big Lots at like, I don't know, 10 years old. And she finally, it was the last straw. Like I'd asked one too many times, like, can I please go get a doll? And there was a My Scene Chelsea doll that had a like green turquoise locker with like a bunch of little accessories. And something in me decided in that moment, like, it's her, like she's the one. And that was the first doll that was mine. My mother was always very supportive and encouraging, and she just wanted me to be happy and was sort of at odds with other people in my life and the world and whatever. But spoiler alert, like to break the fourth wall, you asked me prompts before this, and I was sort of getting prepared in my mind, thinking about like, what was the first doll that I bought myself? And that was not the one I thought of, because you phrased that in a way that sort of reminded me of Chelsea. About 6 years ago, when I was like really excited about doing it for real and like, not being afraid of being an adult dude or someone perceived as a dude in the world collecting dolls as an adult person. I was like, you know what? I don't care anymore. I'm just going to start doing it. And there was a line that Mattel had produced called Let's Play Barbie, and they were reproduction dolls, but they were really nice. Like some of you might be familiar with them, I'm sure. My issue with repros is that they usually just can't hold a candle to vintage dolls. And actually that's begun to shift in the last couple of maybe 2 years. You can see that some of like the Silkstones are like, they're doing a really fabulous job. But the 90s ones, I mean, like it's maybe rude to call them a joke, but that's the first word that comes to mind. They are they're unfortunate, and
as all my 90s Barbies are giving you the glare.
No, I love 90s superstar dolls. Let me clarify, 90s repros of vintage 60s dolls are not it,
right?
And I want them so badly to be perhaps some of that is deliberate on Mattel's part. Anyway, this is all to say that I found a Let's Play Barbie repro from like 2009. I don't know, 10 maybe. And she had this wonderful lemon blonde hair, and she came with reproduction outfits in reproduction boxes of vintage fashions. It was very, very well done. And I thought, well, I have no money. I have like 3 jobs and no money. And there's, a snowball's chance in hell I can actually get a vintage doll. So the closest thing for me is this wonderful repro. And I already had the vintage dream house at the time. And the minute I put her in the house, I was like, I have a problem. There's a problem. There's going to be a problem. Yeah, right. And then the runaway train. Yeah, someone cut the brakes. So it's been maybe a slower journey as I've been able to acquire more coveted dolls. That's the one that really I was like, I'm going to collect intentionally now, and no regrets. Very satisfied with my collection.
It's so interesting. I say this almost every time I do one of these. It's like there's 2 types of Barbie collectors out there. They're the ones that were able to really play with them as a kid. Like I'm not, I'm just gonna be honest with you. My grandma was obsessed with me having Barbies, and I was obsessed with Barbies, and so I grew
I
up
love this
with
for you.
Barbie, but then there's the other side of people who, they either weren't allowed to play with them or their parents weren't really into that idea. Sometimes they caved,
Sure,
sometimes they didn't. But then as
sure.
adults, I mean, we also a lot of the time on the show talk about that period where, like you were saying, there is a point in everyone's life, I think, where they may be too old to play with Barbies. I say that in quotes, but we always come back to them. And so I think what's so great
Right,
is especially for people who were not allowed to play with Barbies as a kid, it's so wonderful seeing people, adults, finally being able to do what they want and do what they love and pay for it on their own,
sure.
which is like the most
Sure, sure.
empowering thing. Obviously today we're talking a lot about Barbie. So I mean, who is Barbie to you and how do you feel like Barbie has shaped you into the person that you've become today?
Gosh, how has Barbie shaped me as a person? Well, okay, Barbie to me, I love actually. I love to be sometimes uncharitable to Barbie. I like to be very, very honest about Barbie. And you've spoken on the podcast before about like Barbie has multitudes, right? Like
Yeah.
Barbie is complicated and has history and has context and animosity and all sorts of things. And I actually really enjoy sort of indulging that conflict, or at least the sort of divisive opinions that she creates, and maybe why that is. Barbie, especially the era of Barbie I collect, is very much a time capsule of very specific outward femininity and a very sort of overt societal gender expectation on women, right? Like, I'm not saying anything inventive by stating this. Everyone knows, when you, especially now with a movie, you look at you look at 60s Barbie and you think, well, that's a very limited experience of a woman. It's a very limited experience of a housewife or a mother. And ironically, she was trying to break out of that, right? The entire intention of the earliest doll was you no longer have to be, chained to the kitchen, or you can imagine more for your life than a baby doll. And I think in some way was very effective. Um, However, only to so much of a degree, right? And so I actually really celebrate that element of her. I like that she, something as behemoth as Barbie, an icon of that stature, does not come without all sorts of kerfuffles. And I just think it's worth appreciating those things. Looking back at old fashions like the beautiful but problematic Plantation Belle is, it's one of my favorite ensembles. Like, you look at it and it's just this cloud of lace. It's so delicate. It's so beautiful. It's got Swiss dots and frills. I mean, it is if you're thinking of like, I want like Christmas morning doll, like she's it. I think she's so beautiful. But it was produced at a time where that language or using it was not strange. It was
Right.
not weird. And so I think it's important to acknowledge where she came from, right? I mean, you've got Slumber Party that people have spoken at length about. There's the scale set to 110 pounds. There's the book on how to lose weight. I think there is a certain sort of cultural relevancy for Barbie that is important to acknowledge when you're looking at sort of her earliest days. And I don't mean to glorify that. I don't mean to say that that's like something I fully endorse, but that if we are not cognizant of doing it again, right? If we're not intentionally trying to avoid repeating the past, then it's necessary to hold. You know what I mean? I'm fond of that sculpt and I'm fond of the fashions and what have you. Like, we can get into that. But I think it goes without saying, obviously, I did not grow up with those dolls. I did not have firsthand nostalgia or play with them in that way. So I can't credit her necessarily with shaping me as a child. I do actually think the more that I've collected her now as an adult, that has influenced my confidence in the fashions that I wear. She has informed a lot of that, and I think that was always her a real intention, was to show a blueprint for class, for style, for tact, for inspiration. And so many little girls got that, and good for them. But I'm also glad to reclaim a little bit of that as a queer adult too. I think as a kid, the dolls that I had access to and enjoyed were, late 90s superstar, Mackie, Generation Girl, those sort of faces, and they're beautiful. Don't get me wrong. I love those dolls. But I only had so much access to them, I think. Barbie has always been this sort of red tape, and dolls in general, right? Like Barbie was not the only thing that I was attracted to, but I'm not sure. I think Barbie even now serves as a sort of mirror for me, for us, for society at large, whatever meta idea you want to project onto that. She allows us to see the things in ourselves that we want to see. And I challenge then people to also see the things, the parts of themselves that they would like to change. And if you need to, exercise that through Barbie. I think she allows you to sort of be 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 anything, right? Or whatever. But like if you need to be like traumatized and like working through that and like Barbie helps you, listen, there's depression Barbie, there's cellulite Barbie, there's all of the ones from the movie. I think that she can really be much more dynamic than we have long since credited her for.
I agree 100%. And I talk, I mean, when it comes to Barbie, there's so many conversations to be had. But I think the main one that I like to have with people that are, on my level of Barbie fandom is that,
Yeah,
like you're saying, things, I think Mattel has, had several bumps in the road with Barbie. And
oh
a lot of
sure,
a lot of people like to point at those mistakes and those, or even if you want to call them mistakes or accidents or whatever, and just
sure,
really they get so harsh with it. And I'm like, yeah, but you guys are all forgetting the point of Barbie. Like
right,
you're looking at this one aspect of her and turning it into such a negative thing. Why aren't you looking at all of the positives that Barbie brings to people? Like
sure,
when it comes to fashion and shit, like I don't know that. Okay. But I love, the aspect I love about Barbie is like, I mean, as cliche and cheesy as it is, like she can be anything. And like growing up, I
sure,
just thought it was so cool. Like the hours I would spend playing with these Barbies, coming up with all these scenarios and just being so
sure,
creative, like I feel really like shaped me in a way where it's like it really helped me turn on my creative brain. Do you know what I mean? And not in an intentional way. I don't think it just happened, And I think people really forget about all the good that Barbie brings to people. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think it is so, so crucial that children's imaginations have the opportunity to really run the gambit and have free reign. If you as a child have no other space to really occupy, you always have your imagination. And when that is impeded upon, I think that's where the conversation shifts. But I'm glad that, at least for me, I will say this, Barbie was always a beacon for that possibility, even if it wasn't accessible, even if it wasn't there and I couldn't actually indulge. You can't escape her. Like
Nope.
there's no world where Barbie is not in it, especially now. And so it felt like some sort of security or some sort of comfort knowing that like she just exists. She's just there. And I I think the absence of her, strangely, but also to your point, I think the absence of Barbie in my life also gave me a similar experience to yours in that like I needed to exercise something creative and had to find other creative outlets to do it through, even though maybe the initial draw was Barbie. Um, I can always be grateful that even still, without her physically in my hands, she was still inspiring. She was still telling me that there is a whole world of imagination to explore. Her simply existing is enough of an excuse to do that. She allows you to just dream. And maybe that, I hope that's not too fluffy, but I
No.
really mean that.
I totally agree with you on that 100%. That was a great way to put it. Based on what you've just said, I think I'm going to guess your favorite era of Barbie is really the first decade of Barbie. Am I correct?
I have
Like if
no
someone walked
defenses.
into your
I have
house,
no defenses against the
okay.
60s.
No, yeah, no, it's great. It's a great time. And I remember as a kid, like, and even as like a younger adult, I knew about like the, 1959 Barbie and how she looked. And obviously, I was so accustomed to like 90s Barbie, which is like you could
Sure.
not get more. I honestly think the Barbies today,
Unrecognizable.
yeah, I think the Barbies today, like whether you have good feelings or bad feelings, are closer to the 1959 Barbie than 90s Barbie with just all the makeup and
Sure.
like all the, all the
Yeah.
gimmicks and all that stuff. And I remember like really not being into it, the older Barbies until I got older and then really started diving
Sure.
into Barbie and learning about it. I'm just like, oh my God, it's so iconic. And like now as an adult, I respect her even more, than I
Sure.
did as a
Sure.
little kid. But I love that. And so do you, I mean, I don't know about you, but like every time I see a number one Barbie, I freak out because it's like I'm like scared to even look at it.
Sure. I am deeply, deeply, irreparably spoiled rotten. Working in a doll shop has just about cooked me. So, yeah, I mean, the 60s are my preference. I particularly celebrate and indulge in the pre-mod and the turn of mod, and like moment of appreciation, just like a special nugget of love for mod because it is remarkable. I have some mod dolls. I have some mod fashions. I've been joking for a while now that once I begin collecting mod, it's all over. There's no saving me. So hopefully I can still exercise that with some self restraint. But the 60s, I just think I found the faces and the bodies to be so captivating. I too grew up with 90s superstars, and trust me, I love a gimmick. I love a cheap thrill, and there are so many of those dolls that are, I mean, they perfectly strike the balance between exaggerated womanhood, something aspirational, also, exceeding beauty, and a childlike appeal that is both imaginative and perhaps gimmicky. I mean, I think the 90s in some way, and you can tell by the sales, were really the zenith for Barbie. But once I had sort of discovered the vintage dolls, I don't know, as I don't know, maybe 12-year-old, maybe I was a little bit younger than that. I can't remember. Anyway, once I had sort of opened that can of worms, I was like, well, that's not Barbie. That's not Barbie. That's Barbie, and it made me sort of rethink everything. And I loved her sort of strange, ridiculous alien head. I loved the like massive forehead and little pointy eyelashes. I couldn't understand like why were her eyelashes a part of her face? Like that didn't make any sense to me. She, plastic ridges. It was
Right.
very strange. And I loved the sort of like stiff, rigid, pale body. She just looked a little bit like a zombie bride. And I found that to be so intriguing because also she was sort of originally marketed as a mannequin. And it makes perfect sense then that she's got this ridiculous shaped head because you can't really project a personhood or an identity of yourself onto her nearly as easily, I think, as a superstar doll that is
Right.
sculpted to be as close to a person head as possible. And perhaps in some way, maybe that was the real shift for criticism for Barbie is it's like once you leave 67 and turn into mod, she very slowly over time begins to evolve into something that looks more and more like a person. And I wonder if there's no way to know, but I have often pondered, could she have a different reputation and like a different public reception or response if she was not trying to be as human as possible? If she kept sort of a goofy alien shaped head, I say endearingly, it's my favorite sculpt. I wonder if she would have the same sort of pressure on her. And I don't know, but I find that to be, it's so stylized. It's so, I mean, artistic. I think she looks like a sculpture. And I am not collecting Barbie necessarily to like pose them or create really engaging vignettes in that way. I think it's fun to like show off accessories and like, pose them like mannequins because that's what they were made for. Enormous calves. The calves to ankle ratio is like so silly. And the feet are so different. I mean, like hip down, Barbie changes so intensely from the 60s to the 90s.
Right.
And actually, to your point about, the milli sculpt and things happening now, I think you're right. I think that the dolls we're producing now, especially bodies, are closer to that of the earliest iterations of Barbie. She's this sort of stiff thing that's got shoulders and hips, like she's jointed very minimally. She's straight-legged. There's no
Mm-hmm.
knees, and the face is, I think, in the same way that Barbie initially was meant to be very palatable facially and very unimposing
Mm-hmm.
facially. They've done a lot to, I think, recapture that sort of, I don't want to say blandness because that sounds mean,
I
but
get it. I get it.
I think Millie is sort of flat, you
Oh
know?
yeah.
And she's meant to be because if you look at the other, I mean, they're doing some incredible sculpt right now, really, truly beautiful, especially like black and brown faces are so gorgeous. What they're doing with depth for noses and like, I think the eyes, I think for a long time have felt very flat. They're not 3D printed to be, sitting deeper into the cheekbone maybe than just the surface. And they're beginning to sort of chip away at that. And so it's not that they can't or maybe won't make a more dimensional face for Barbie, but that I think Millie is very, very deliberately done to be sort of, anyone could project something onto her. And I don't know. I that makes me just a little bit sad because Barbie has spent so long creating a reputation that it's yin and yang. It's balancing both, right?
It's hard because I mean, I've always collected Barbie. I would say definitely my Barbie collection is probably like 75% 90s Barbies, and then I have some vintage ones.
Sure,
And then
sure.
after I started this podcast, I was like, I don't even know like what Barbie's doing right now. And so I'm like looking at her and like all of a sudden, and I don't know if it's just the consumerism in me and like the need to just I need to go buy a Barbie, but all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? I'm like kind of into them. And like I love
You
I've
say with
literally
shame. I fully endorse you.
and I'm trying to stop doing that because I really do like them. And I mean, not all of
Sure.
them. I like the really basic ones. I love what they've done, and I've talked about this on every episode of the podcast this season. I really love those 65th anniversary interpretations of the
I do
dolls.
too.
I think they look great. They're cheap.
Yeah.
Everyone, they're so cheap. And I'm like, yeah, they literally are. They
Right.
literally
They're
are cheap.
affordable.
Yeah, like you
Everything
what
else that you want is going to be so much
like
more money.
exactly. And like when I was growing up, like Barbie wasn't cheap. She was like $25. And like
Yeah.
that's why you got all
Right.
this cool stuff with her. And it's not like that anymore. But just going back to that Millie face, everyone is just Barbie needs a new face. Barbie needs a new face. And I'm like, honestly, I don't think she does. I think this is where we are
Well,
at.
and I think I fully agree. And I think for now, if you look at the timeline of Barbie, she's had any number of faces for like a decade. I mean, Superstar ran the longest, right? But Barbie averages about 10-ish years with any sculpt. And I think we're just probably just over, I don't know, 5 or 6 years with Millie. I think we've got some way to go with her. I'm not necessarily like staking out and like anticipating her leaving, but I what I would not poo-poo would be if they could still give Barbie like ridiculous hooker makeup that they did in the 90s. If we could still have, I want like teeny little stars on her irises, and I want like this glittery blue eyeshadow to her, hairline. And that's like not what's in trend for fashion. That's like not,
Right.
the 90s was also reflective of what was happening in pop culture. And Barbie is nothing if not a wonderful mirror to what is happening, in a sort of culturally relevant way. And we're doing like clean girl, get ready with me, minimalist, no makeup internet girls. Like that's what's happening. And she is, accurately reflecting that. So I can only approach this with so much of my own nostalgic bias. I don't have a hubris to say that, my opinion's the best, but I do wish that they could give her slightly exaggerated glamour, make glamorous makeup. And they do sometimes. I mean, like the 65th, the big black and white, like swirly train, the just the layers of black and white. That doll is beautiful. Like I haven't bought one yet, but I think I want one. She's great. And like they gave her just a slight face up, something that's a little bit more glamorous. And And if we can have Barbie that you can project anything onto, I hope there's also room for glam hooker Barbie still somewhere, you know?
We need her
'Cause,
back.
right, representation matters.
Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, all amazing points. And yeah, I think Millie gets a lot of hate and she shouldn't. But anyway, it is
That's
what it
fair.
is. It is what it is. So, as someone who collects Barbies, tell me about this is a very, I think this is a hard question to answer, but tell me about yourself as a collector when you're like, I mean,
Okay.
I know you go to a lot of conventions, I know you work at a doll shop, like for your personal taste, like when you're looking for Barbies for yourself, what do you look for? What is like, where do you go, what do
Sure.
you do? Tell me about that.
Oh, I'm a nightmare. I'm the worst collector because I'm incredibly picky. It all comes down to faces for me almost every time. And this is true of dolls that are produced today, but I think even maybe especially of vintage dolls that no one face is the same.
Right.
No two faces are the same. And I am really drawn. My previous career for nearly a decade was a makeup artist. And so it has totally ruined me looking at dolls because, and also working in a doll shop, you know, I can fully indulge all of the best parts of makeup artistry without all of the worst parts of that job. And in many ways, I still reminisce and cherish and love that period of my life. But, you know, sometimes clients aren't happy and dolls never talk back. Dolls never have an opinion. You know, I can't glue your eye closed if you're not alive. So that's a part. With that said, I have a sort of heightened spidey sense for, you know, faces and faces that are done in a way that I think are attractive. So even, you know, a particular release of a doll, you know, collectors refer to the vintage dolls. The first dolls all had ponytails, and those ponytails are numbered, up to 6. Some argue a 7, whatever. And then you've got bubbles, and then you've got swirls, and then you've got, you know, they on and on. If you were to pick from any number of those original first ponies, let's say that you're collecting number 3s, every 3 still looks different from a different
Right.
3. So you can say, I would want this quality in one. And then you learn, oh, there's a variation in that quality. So now you know, the collecting has another tier to the iceberg. I'm the worst. I think, there are people in my life that I know would like to surprise me maybe with, a doll treat. And I would always welcome that. But I think I've given them the impression to not even bother because I'm so strict about what it is that I want. I look for symmetry. I look for maybe placement of the stencil and how that flatters a face or maybe how it doesn't. I look for factory errors. I mean, I'm drawn to exceptionally pretty faces and you know, I'm willing to touch up dolls that are otherwise in bad shape if they have an especially pretty face. But I'm also drawn to sort of goofy looking ones, you know, ones that are looking two different directions or have
Like
some sort of,
all the Midge dolls.
yeah.
Just so goofy. So goofy, dude.
Poor mid. They're
Poor
all
Midge.
wall-eyed. Yeah, I think faces are what I'm most drawn to.
That's great. And so do you, I mean, obviously you know about my Britney Spears custom doll. So I'm always going to thrift
Very much.
stores and flea markets because I need parts and stuff. And you know, that's how you do it.
Sure.
Uh,
Sure.
and so I'm always like looking at, you know, vintage Barbies or Barbies, whatever. If Barbie's there, I'm going. So like, do you get into any of that? Do you go to the flea markets and all that stuff?
Oh, of course. Oh, of course. I've gotten to a point now where that does require a certain level of stamina.
Oh
I
yeah, you
need to
got to
be
be
in the mood to
ready.
go do that.
Yeah.
It is fierce. It's fierce, Tina. The thrift stores are doing a lot right now, and I think people have a sort of ambitious opinion about maybe, you know, if you have stumbled into a collection of dolls that you didn't know you had, maybe you're a family member has just sort of given you these dolls and you're going to go sell them or, you know, Facebook Marketplace something. These people, respectfully, are out of their minds. Like everyone thinks they're on a fortune, and I want that for you. However, you know, like $20 for like, I don't know, doll with no hair and like missing an arm, in a thrift store is like bananas. It's bananas, you guys. I need us all to remember that this is still Barbie. Like she's not. The other, things that I work with in the shop are very old antique Bisque German and French dolls. I've got Jameaux, I've got Bruges, I've got these things that collectors are, they're very sought after. They're pieces of art. And some of them are 100, 120 years old. And it's remarkable to have that sort of stuff to work with. But Barbie's only been around so long. And
Right.
so, as desirable as she is, I almost find it comical. The inflation around her right now is just unbearable. But if I have it in me and I have, a reasonable head on my shoulders, I love to go thrifting. I love antiquing. My entire apartment is full of antique furniture and things. And I'm sort of the analog, rickety, rusty, dusty friend of the bunch that just likes old things. And so that's sort of my happy place. And if I can go do that and find a cute lampshade and a new doll, then like my whole month is made. But it's a slippery slope.
Oh yeah,
Doll stuff, especially in person, it's hard to rein it in.
it is. And I want to talk about the trendiness of doll collecting in just a second. But before that, I mean, talking about, a lot of people either don't realize what they have or, and they'll sell
Sure.
things for dirt cheap. Or like you said, it's like, why do you think I would pay you $100 for this superstar Barbie that it's like
Right.
not even looking her best, But
There's a whole foot chewed off. People are
yeah,
out of their minds.
her arm is gone,
Right, right.
But I mean, I think I told you about this. I was at a flea market a while
Yes,
ago,
that's a pretty
and
doll.
listen, here's the thing. A lot of people are like, well, I don't understand. Because I find a lot of Britney dolls and shit. And people are like, how do you do that? And I'm like, persistence, first of all. And second of all, like, people are like, well,
Sure.
that you're never going to find. Like, how did you find that? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, persistence. I go to this flea market in like Longmont or something.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
totally, I was just like having one of my days. And I was like, I guess I'll just do like the Longmont circuit. Like, there's a bunch down there, whatever.
Sure.
And I'm in this flea market and I find what I now know as a number 4, but maybe like maybe a transitional piece. We don't know. It's a little
Sure,
bit.
sure.
I've been yeah, so far I've just come to terms. I'm going with number 4, but it also might be a number 3, number 4 hybrid. I don't know. But I found this Barbie and she was in
Sure.
great shape and she was $10.
I still hate you for it. I got
Oh
that
my
text from you
God.
and I just about threw my phone. Because
Oh,
I was in Longmont that day. I was in, or like the day, I think we had just missed each other, just crossed paths. I was in Longmont and I was thrifting with a friend and I could have just come unglued. It was a wonderful find. I'm so happy for you. And she's got a great face. But to your point, I mean, people often do not know what they have, or even more so, I think, are in a position where something in their life has happened and they just need to get rid of stuff. And dolls are often stuff that people don't want to try to figure out more about or what have you. People don't always know what they have. And lucky for collectors like you and I, we can keep an eye out for it. But I mean, it requires so much determination and so much persistence that you have to be really okay with not only just being tired, but also being discouraged. If you are making an entire thing out of collecting dolls and thrifting dolls and what have you, I think people think now that it's just like a constant jackpot and like it's still a huge treasure hunt. You have to scavenge for weeks, months. I mean, sometimes you'll spend your whole life looking for that one piece. And God bless things like eBay, but I don't know. It's yin and yang. It's a little bit of both, and thrifting is hard. When I have the time and I have the energy, it's enjoyable. But sometimes the discouragement really gets me down.
oh, for sure. And I mean, I wouldn't say unfortunately, but I mean, I do my thrift runs every Saturday, and like
Oh, every
different.
week,
I'll choose different areas and stuff, but where I live in Broomfield.
sure,
There's like 8 ARC thrift stores, like within like a 15
sure.
mile radius, so it's not too bad. But I mean, sometimes, some days, some Saturdays, I come home with bags of shit, and some days I
Uh,
come home with
yeah,
nothing, and it's just very like,
yeah.
I'll try again next week, whatever.
It's
Or
feast or
sometimes
famine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or sometimes I'll be like, I'll just take a week off and then maybe the next week there'll be more, whatever. But no, you can really find some incredible stuff. And like, I'm not kidding, that Barbie, that number 4 Barbie I found, she was just in a bin of just
Oh,
random toys.
spare
And I
me.
just saw her little arm sticking out. And I was like, what is this?
Help!
And I was like, oh my
Help!
God. And I totally fixed her green ear. It was a great experience. And I was gonna sell her,
Ooh,
but then I
I'll
was
ask
like,
more about that later.
oh, sure. I was gonna sell her, but then I was like, you know what? I put a lot of work into this. Like, I'm gonna keep her. And like, what a
Yeah.
great
And she's
find. And
beautiful.
she
Yeah,
looks
I
great.
mean, Barbie is this thing where, like, at least I do this. I sort of associate where I found her or how I found her or whatever with the doll itself. And then there's like oh, I bought that doll from this person at this convention and we had this conversation and blah, blah, blah. And that is such a wonderful story. I mean, if you ever part with a doll, call me. But I think you should cherish her because that never, especially now, that just never happens to find a vintage pony in a bin of a thrift stop. So
Yeah,
congratulations.
thank you. It was crazy. Well, definitely one of the coolest things I've ever found. One thing I wanted to touch on, because I think it's come up quite a few times already in the time that we've talked. And it's something I've been talking with guests about a lot more lately. And it's this uptick in the trendiness of doll collecting because
Sure, sure.
I mean, I've collected dolls all my life and it has never been cool. like to me, it's always
Yeah,
been cool, but it's always been kind of a weird, like awkward thing. Like, oh yeah, like anytime you have someone come over to your house for the first time and they walk in and they're like,
sure.
oh,
Yeah,
this
right,
is what
right,
this is what we're working with. Now,
right.
it's definitely, and I think the Barbie movie is the cause of this, truthfully. But like, what are your thoughts? I mean, the doll community is amazing. I have nothing bad to say about the doll community. But there are some, now that this Barbie movie has come out, I mean, I noticed it was real quick. I'm out at the thrift stores doing my weekly routine and suddenly like there's more people here and they're getting the
Yep,
Barbies and I'm like, what the hell is going on?
right.
And then I'm like, oh, duh. And so now I think
Right.
there's kind of like a trendiness to the Barbie where there's a lot of people on the internet, especially, who are, and bless them, anyone who wants to get into dolls, like their journey is their journey. And it
Sure.
doesn't matter when you start collecting dolls, but there's a genuineness in it that I feel is
Mm.
missing. And where it's like, I think you're just getting these for
Because it's like a hot thing to do for TikTok.
to be the first person to get it or I don't know if this is,
Sure.
I don't feel that from some people, not all people, most, I mean everyone I've talked to has been great, but it's just something I've seen. So what are your thoughts on the increase of trendiness on Barbie now?
Totally. I mean, I think we are existing at a very interesting, perhaps bleak, specific time in the world, and it is undeniable that like we collectively as a society are just experiencing something very turbulent and very difficult, I think, to cope with. In some ways, it's unprecedented, and dolls can serve as a great escape for that. And I think now more than ever, I've seen actually a couple times, even just in the last like month, statistic after statistic after statistic that's like this toy manufacturer and this toy manufacturer are now suddenly producing more for the adult market than they ever have and surpassing the child market, right? So you've got an interesting phenomenon of adults now with disposable income that are trying to cope with the world falling apart and a sort of perhaps discouragement in long-term security. I think like there's no conversation around the influx or the trend around adult toy collecting, adult doll collecting, without also recognizing other factors that could be at play. And that to me is a huge one. I mean, like the Squishmallow exists for adults, and like I will die on this hill. Kids don't care about it. Like kids care about like the iPad, right? They're doing like digital things. Entire Squishmallow collections are happening for like 30-year-old people, right? Like there are uh adults, there are people in their 30s that are going back to Pokemon cards. And like I think what all of us are really craving right now is a sense of something familiar, something comforting, something that's like a cute little thing that looking at it or experiencing it brings you joy. And if you've got a smiling little plastic blonde thing that like looks pretty and like makes you feel nice, staring back at you whenever you feel sad or nervous or anxious or insecure or whatever, I think even if it's just for a moment, you get that hit of comfort, that hit of serotonin, and it's very effective. So I think, like you said, the Barbie movie has done quite a bit, if not maybe the most work for that trend. I think that's certainly encouraged people to revisit and maybe even relieve themselves of the stigma around doll collecting and toy collecting, allowing all of us at large to sort of indulge in what are the things that brought me joy as a child? And like, maybe if during all of this, societal hullabaloo, when so many things feel uncertain and who knows what happens next, at least I can have this tangible moment of comfort, exactly. And dolls occupy a very specific space for people. Dolls have existed since the dawn of time. And I think they serve as means of amusement. I think they serve as means of reflections on people, on emotions. They supplement a relationship for some people. I mean, I think those in a really desperate state feel a human connection to dolls in a way that very few other things can give a person. Dolls are profound, and dolls have always been profound, and dolls have always existed. And I think we're sort of in a renaissance for dolls of a accessible sort of ranking. It's very exciting, but I think there's a lot to do with that. And I think, sort of to the point about thrifting earlier, people maybe think like, oh, well, I had this doll as a kid that I no longer care about, but I know now that there's a huge surge of excitement or attention or interest from somebody else that wants dolls, and maybe I can make a buck or two. And so in some way, it's very cyclical. You've got someone that wants money, somebody that wants a doll, and if you can strike a balance for, a good competitive price, then everybody's happy. But that's a big if right now. I think a lot
Right.
of people are, sort of ambitious. But it's interesting, the trend of toy collecting and the trend of doll collecting becoming something that I think very much is trendy. Is it has also now reached a point where it doesn't feel as weird, right? Like, I always felt very self-conscious about enjoying dolls or being attracted to them or desiring them, and always had sort of disparaging nicknames assigned to me as a kid about like my love of dolls and my love of Barbie. I can only hope, although I know it isn't, you know, fully happened, but I can only hope that we've begun entering a period of that being less weird, or that being less like specifically gendered or stigmatized or whatever. And at the very least, if we can all run around with our freak flags flying, then maybe no one cares as much anyway. If you have to, if they can't embrace you, then you have to sort of lean in all the way, I think.
100%. Yeah. I just think it's interesting. There's so many things that have come out of the Barbie movie. And one of them I've just noticed is just all of a sudden it is so cool to collect dolls. And I'm like, okay, but don't spend $20,000 if you don't really love this. That's just my point, or do. It's not,
Oh,
do whatever you want. But
oh,
like sometimes I'm just kind of like,
sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, are you asking yourself why it is that you're doing this?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know. Like,
Yeah.
if you're frivolously spending 20 grand, maybe just sit with that for a second.
Yeah, exactly. So now I want to get into, Christopher, you work in a doll shop. So
Yes.
tell me, you already kind of talked about how that came about. So what does your day usually look like?
What day is it?
Or tell me about just some of
Uh,
the exciting things you do at the doll shop.
sure. Yeah, I mean, there's never a dull moment. Like I said, I was a makeup artist. I started working down the street, and then it's a sweet story. If you have ever searched for dolls on the internet on Google, or doll shops or doll whatever, turn of the century is one of the very first search results. And one day I was, looking for dolls in Denver, and found that this is like in my neighborhood, right? It's down the street from me. And I pull up, and I see an appointment notice on the door, and so I call. And I was like, "Well, hi, I'm outside, and
Uh,
I'd like to come inside. Is anyone there?" And this 8-month pregnant woman waddles to the door and says, "Hi, I'm Rachel," and gave me a really sweet tour of the whole shop. And she was like, what do you like? What do you do? What do you collect? And I started rambling about Barbie as I'm prone to do. And and as I was leaving, she gifted me Barbie's very first board game, complete with all of its pieces, just as this like thank you for coming to the shop gift. It was really sweet, and obviously the memory stuck. It was a very generous gesture. And fast forward a couple months later, I was between jobs, and I was actually working at an antique shop down the street. And then I got my bearings and realized where I was. And I came over and I said, I'm not sure if you remember me. I'm that nerd that you gave that board game to. And I just wanted to let you know that I work down the street now and I'm your neighbor, and just wanted to introduce myself. And she starts asking me about like what I'm doing there and antiques and whatever. And then she starts asking me more about dolls. And she was like, "Well, can how good do you think you would be at putting dolls on a shelf?" And I was like, "Well, I got a whole cabinet full of them at home, so I think I'll probably do okay." And without missing a beat, she offered me a job, and I've been here ever since. And each day really truly is different than the last, and there's only so much predicting one can make for tomorrow. My job consists of many hats. We are one of the very few brick and mortar doll shops in the country. It's contradicting our previous sort of point. Antique dolls as an industry are not necessarily booming in the same way that Squishmallows and Funko Pops are. There's a very specific graphic with the money that is interested or what have you. In some way, we function as a curated museum experience of the full spectrum of dolls. It also is the functioning headquarters for the virtual doll convention, which
right.
is sort of how we do everything else. And the virtual doll convention, one of its like major projects is that we offer subscription box services for doll collectors, and are thrilled to be sort of the pioneers of that idea. So we have a sort of very wonderful exclusive arrangement with the Toner Doll Company, and so we are able to sort of sell and distribute his dolls. In particular, we have Grace Marie Fitzpatrick, who is a ambitious, can do anything 30-something, 16-inch doll. She's beautiful. And she's our sort of tried and true from the very beginning. She is what we kicked off the subscription box service with. Just last year, we acquired the ability to do a subscription box service for Elowen. And Elowen Wild, if you are a Tonner doll person, is the creme de la creme for Tonner. She actually is his personal favorite of his dolls. And we have been very eagerly and excitedly fashioning her. And just a couple months ago, not even, maybe 2 months ago, we released a brand new doll to go along with Grace. We released Anne as a younger sister to Grace. And so just in a couple of weeks, actually, we're going to be launching a subscription box service for Anne. So it's very fun. It's a very specific job that is difficult to, summarize or relay to just about anybody. But I know that you understand. I'm in good company.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I went to go see the shop probably like over a year ago when you guys talked
Oh
to me
yeah.
about the Britney Spears doll, and I mean, this shop is incredible. I mean, I know not everyone can just go
Oh,
there,
thank you.
but I mean, you guys have
Sure.
everything: Barbie, American Girl, really, really old Titanic-looking dolls. Like, oh my gosh, it's
The
amazing! It's amazing. I
full
love it.
spectrum.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm cutting up wigs, and sometimes I'm, ironing out teeny tiny wrinkles for teeny tiny dresses, running around looking for the right purse or satin ribbon. I do lots of photography, and I also do, lighting design and set design. I pop up all of the film sets for each of our videos. If you are watching, a sale go live, or maybe a new garment is being released, what have you. I very much enjoy sort of creating some immersive world for you to witness and experience that video to happen in. And I say it all the time, but like if you can't play and have fun with dolls, then like where can you have fun? Uh, so much of my job is exercising that creative juice, staging and figuring out how to fill negative space or to play with texture and color um, in a effective and beautiful way. I have a very, very silly, delightful job that I'm very grateful to have. It's unlike any other job I've ever had, and I tell my friends, it feels like a fake job. It's a very much a pinch me job.
I love that so much.
I also just want to say so quickly, it was so cool to have you in the shop and bringing in your collection. Your Britney
Oh,
dolls were so cool to see in person, and it was so nice to meet you. And having you here was like just a treat. I mean, you're down the street functionally. Come back anytime. It would be a delight to have you.
I was just at that like that 80s toy store the other day, and
Yes.
I
Yeah.
drove by it, but I was like, I'm pretty sure they're closed today, and you were, and I was like,
Yeah.
next time.
Well, yeah, truly, next time you should, I mean, reach out. It would be delightful to have an in-person thing.
Yeah. Okay. So just a couple more things. So this has been great. I love that you are getting to do something you love. I love that you love Barbie. I love that I love it all. So what is something, or what would you like to see Barbie do in the next 10 years that she hasn't done yet?
Oh, what a marvelous question. God, has Barbie not done something? What would I like to see Barbie do? I would like to see, I mean, like, they're doing such a wonderful job for all of the flack that I do give Barbie and Mattel. They've done an exceptional job at representation and full inclusivity. And like, we've moved past like the singular doll in a wheelchair, and now we're getting like every doll of every skin type, of every variation. They're really, really very thoroughly thinking about who are we leaving out. And so like that I think is worthy of a huge celebration, like little teeny tiny round of applause from Mattel, because I think that is very cool. In addition to that, I know that they did. Do you remember the name of the collection they did? Like maybe 2 years ago, they were Mattel dolls, but they weren't Barbie, and they were sort of childlike, and they were designed to be fluid in gender expression. And there were like dolls that you could dress in pants
Yes.
or skirts and like
Mm-hmm.
long wigs and short wigs.
Yep.
That I thought was like so fierce. I thought that was so cool. And I know that that didn't do especially well, and I mean, it did fine, but the reception was sort of tepid. And I think it would be really cool to have like a proper, openly queer, trendy, chic doll. I mean, maybe it's a system of magnets or something where you can apply false lashes and then you can apply a beard and maybe you can wear both, right? Like I want a doll that can fully play with a gender, because I think the presence of that would both be productive in the sense that there will inevitably be those who oppose the idea of this doll, and I will go ahead and project an argument onto them. That is, maybe we as people need more time to like experiment and like not commit to something that feels so severe. I think would be really affirming for somebody else that doesn't have access to that exposure or community or what have you. I think now more than ever, it's important that any marginalized group, but queer people at large, um, continue to spread the message that is like, I exist and you can too. And let's do it in a chic, fashionable, contemporary, admirable, attractive way. I think there's a sort of fear of being cliche or perhaps stereotypical if you're trying to,
Oh, I totally, totally agree. I've talked about this on the show before. It's a very fine line. I would love to see a very proud, open, gay specific doll, but I do think, it would be difficult for them to figure out how to do that without, like you said, being stereotypical or, whatever you want to call it. But I agree. And I yeah. And I totally agree. I love those family sets where you could kind of play with the gender. I can't remember what those are called, but it definitely was talked about on the show at some point. I'll have to go back. But yeah, I'd love to see that. I think that'd be cool. And yeah, it's, there's so much stuff Barbie can do, and I'm so excited. I can't wait to see what she does, because with Barbie it's always pretty much exciting.
Yeah.
So I guess my last question for you, Christopher, is what is the most recent Barbie you've purchased for yourself?
Uh, again, I have a problem. Um, I just actually came back from the UFDC 75th anniversary convention. It was the 75th of them. I couldn't believe it. And I it's overdue somehow. I've gone this entire time without a 1959 doll. I know how, it's because I'm poor. But I found a beautiful number three that me and my picky eyeballs could finally rest easy on. And I let her sit there for a couple days just to, if somebody else had to have her, then it was a sign. But no one ever did, and I fell in love. And so I brought home my very first 1959 number three ponytail. She's beautiful. She's one of the palest ones I've ever seen. She's so faded, she's nearly green. She looks a little bit undead, which I love. And actually, the other thing I just bought, I just opened this with my boyfriend last night. It came in from Walmart. There is a delightful influencer. She's a opera singer with Berkeley College. She's incredible. A while back, she was showing on her account that the fifth and exclusive holiday Barbie, did you see the
Yeah.
auburn with the ponytail?
Yeah.
She was available at Walmart, and it's a Generation Girl sculpt, and I just about came undone. I haven't seen that face in like 10 years,
Forever,
15
yeah.
years. And so the rest of them are pretty. I'm not like obsessed with the dress, but the packaging is gorgeous. And actually, the fabric is very pretty. But she came in last night, and she's beautiful. It's the best, like, I don't know, $45 I've ever spent. And it's the best, I don't really collect holiday dolls either, but to have a new one come out with a face that the nostalgia just like washed over me. So I have both ends of the spectrum for Barbie right now. I have like what I would consider, perhaps I'm a biased party, the creme de la creme of Barbie. And then you've got a newly produced mass market holiday doll. And I think that sums up my collection pretty well.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I just got the one that looks. I don't even the Teresa one, Teresa face mold or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love. I get the holiday dolls just because they're cute. I don't think they should be
sure.
$45, and I really like this new one,
Right.
except for her earrings. I think her earrings are
The earrings
awful.
are atrocious. They're
It's
atrocious.
I don't
And
know.
I'm not afraid to say it.
Me either. I
I
think I think Mattel does a lot of great things, and where they usually, for me, with the
yeah.
newer Barbies, steer wrong is the accessories. I'm like, just take this off.
Even if they could have just painted the clear PVC, like paint it gold.
Yeah,
Like I could even give me like a gold fabric bow instead. Fierce. Or just like a classic pearl. I love a little pearl stud. That would have been perfect.
I love that. So, Christopher, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. I'm hoping I'll get Rachel on the show for the next set of episodes I do. And again,
Absolutely.
I love the conversation. It was great. Please tell everyone where they can find you on the internet.
Sure. I'm not all over the place. I try to keep the head underground a little bit, but I am a contributor to the channel for Rachel Hoffman. If you search Rachel Hoffman on YouTube, her personal channel for Turn of the Century, for the Virtual Doll Convention, all of that comes up. And I am a frequent flyer on the Rachel Hoffman channel. I also am on Instagram at trinket_twink, although
Yeah.
I've sort of outgrown my twink phase. I need to change the handle, I guess, someday. But you can find me in all of my Barbie endeavors and my own sort of exercising imaginative play and processing the craziness of the world and celebrating my brand new number three on Instagram.
I love that. Well, I'm definitely going to come see you guys soon. I can't wait, and we'll keep in touch.
Thank you so much, Sage. This was a total treat. You've made my week, and
Good.
we really should have something in person soon. This was delightful. Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. Okay, thank you so much, Christopher. That was so much fun. And seriously, thank you also so much for the last minute interview. I really, really appreciate it. And the conversation was great. So thank you so much for being on the show. You guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you've enjoyed all the episodes this summer. It's been a blast for me. Please tell me which one your favorite one was. I would love to know. Like I said earlier, this is the last episode of August. So I will be back in about, 3 weeks? Got some cool stuff coming for you guys in September, and then more episodes of the Iconic Dollcast in the fall. So if you are enjoying the show, please leave me a 5-star rating, leave me a review. It really helps. As always, please follow me on Instagram, Britney Spears Custom Dolls or Iconic Dollcast. If you want to get a custom Britney doll, send me a message on Instagram. If you want to be on the show, send me a message on Instagram. Check me out on TikTok, Britney Spears Dolls, and I will talk with you guys in September.